editing your own work is one of the hardest things to do. I mean, it's pretty easy to criticize somebody else. In this video, I'm asking you to criticize yourself. Most people, when they do their work, they do their very best work. So it's kind of hard to go back and make your best better. But that's exactly what you're going to do today. So step one is to brainstorm some topics and some subtopics that interest you. Step two is to let those ideas incubate. Most people don't come up with an idea and start writing right away. That's not really natural. That means when you come up with some ideas, maybe you draw them or diagram, you watch a video, you chat with a peer, you let the idea sit with you about it. All that stuff is just connecting neurons in your brain and getting you to write something really, really well. You got to connect the ideas before you can write it all. Another step that most new writers like you don't understand is step 3 of writing is actually to write foolishly and fluently. What I mean is that you just need to get a blank sheet of paper, a pencil, and just write every idea that pops in your head. Not every idea is going to be a good idea. But sometimes bad ideas lead to really, really great ideas. And sometimes horrible sentences are sitting right in front of perfectly beautiful sentences. So don't stop yourself short just because you sound foolish. Just keep going. Now, step 4 is to reread your work and look for places where you need more information. This video is kind of like step 3 and 4 for after that first draft where you wrote foolishly and fluently. And that's what I'm going to show you today. So the first step in editing your own work is to reread your own work. When you are reading your own work, you have to look for problems and try to fix them yourself. The first problem that most people usually look for is grammar mistakes. That's what your teacher's looking for first too. If you wrote one paragraph, then you should have 5 capital letters and 5 periods. The second thing people usually notice when you read it again is that some parts don't really make sense. You read it and you read it again and you're still like, what was I trying to say here? The third problem is that there's missing information. That means it doesn't make sense because you didn't know what the writer's talking about. You have to think of someone else's perspective when you're reading your own work. So I guess problem 2 and 3 are kind of the same thing. Usually the writing doesn't make sense because the writer has assumed that you know something. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the worksheet together and we're going to practice doing just that. The worksheet looks like this. This worksheet is just a rough draft, just the first time you wrote it. I did a little research on a god named Atum. He was a god from some North African culture. So go ahead and start reading this to yourself.
As soon as you see an error, you can start editing it just like this.
See, I'm rereading this to myself right now, and I'm seeing some errors here. The main creation myth explained that before the beginning of time, a tomb, oh wait, I should capitalize a tomb, rose from the rolling chaos, oh that's wrong. Let me start again. The main creation myth explained that before the beginning of time, a tomb rose from the rolling chaos called Nun, likely the Nile River, and I shouldn't say and there, and created himself and rose up and, yep, I've used and a lot. Then I need to check my spelling. Well, that's okay. I wrote foolishly and fluently the first time. Instead of writing and, I should definitely put a period and then make 2 shorter sentences. So most of these ands can go away. Well, except for this one. This one can stay. I'll leave that one there. So on the first time reading it, all these spelling errors messed me up. Then reading it, I saw all these ands that I need to get rid of. Okay, well, I kind of repeated myself here, so I'm going to cross that part off. And now I'm rereading it, and I never actually explained who Atum was. So I knew who Atum was, but I never actually told my reader. So I kind of need to do that too. And of course, if this is a paragraph, I don't have a conclusion. I should make this like 2 or 3 paragraphs. But it's my first draft, so that's okay. I'm going to add some questions to my writing that's real specific, help my reader understand. Okay, so let's review really quick. When you're rereading your own work, look for grammar mistakes and things that make sense. But now I'm going to be looking for missing information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add questions that my reader might be thinking. Read this again. So it's best to assume the reader doesn't know anything what I'm talking about. Never heard of gods, don't know what a tomb is, has no idea where North Africa or the Nile River is. Like they know nothing. So I'm going to add some questions as specific as I can get to help the reader understand what's missing. What is a creation myth? What culture is this? What does this sentence mean? He created himself by himself? I need a transition here. Let's try to edit by adding more sentences. The new sentences I added are in blue. Read this to yourself and tell me that it ain't better. Now that is definitely better. The question is, how did I make it better? I added some definitions right here. I added some examples right here. And I added some explanation here. I added some questions. And then I added a summary at the end of the paragraph. And then I transitioned to the next thought. Those are the things I added in the first paragraph to make it better. And then after I transitioned, I add another transition for the new paragraph. You see, I did this all after I wrote my first draft. First, I got all the ideas flowing out of my head foolishly and fluently. And then I go back, and then I see what's missing. And then I write questions. It's really hard to do all that stuff on the first draft. I mean, to be honest, most of the time I write 5 or 6 drafts before I even turn it in. So when you're rereading your own work, try to look for the problems and then fix them. The most common problems are grammar and spelling mistakes. Another problem most writers have is they don't see the parts that don't make sense. You have to think about someone else reading your writing who doesn't know what you know. And the third most common problem is information's missing because you assume the reader knows something that you know. Never assume anything. When you have missing information, you're going to have to do a little more research to add in the missing information. So here is my whole second draft. And now I'm going to go through it again for the third time. And I'm going to write more questions to help drive my research. I mean, I don't want to be wandering around Google forever, right? I got to be focused. And that's why I write down these specific questions. So you can go to the writing on the third draft and you can write yourself some questions as if you're the reader and don't know these things. Now, I never did actually say what creation myth this was from. I never actually said where it was located. I wrote down the Nile River, but I never said where it was really located. Or maybe I could just put a map. Lots of informative writers put diagrams and illustrations in like that, and I'll probably put one in here. You see where I wrote this sentence here that he created himself and he rose? Did he rise out of what? I think I should do some research on that part too, and then make a whole paragraph about how he created himself. I mean, it's kind of interesting to create yourself. So let me go back to reading it. He created a hill so he could have a place to stand. However, he's standing alone in the world and he was neither male nor female. Why did I mention that? Does it matter if he was male or female? Oh, it's because I said he earlier. If I change the pronouns of a god to he to it, then I don't need that part at all. I need to work on that male-female part. I don't think I need that there. Okay, let me keep reading. A tomb has an all-seeing eye, and you have the ability to roam the universe. That's a creation myth of how one God came to be. However, there are other gods after him. Later, Atum created his own children. I think I should add some details here on why he needed his children. Pretty weird to think that a god would need something. So that's a very interesting question. Now I have a whole lot of questions to drive my further research. And if I let my brain wander free, I can end up with a whole lot more questions. Maybe you're going to think of your own questions about other people's religions. Just let your mind wander and see where it's going and come up with your own. It's really interesting what other people believe in, because I know what I believe in, and I don't have any questions about it. It seems so true to me. But then again, I thought about it a lot when I was 14 years old and 15 years old. And I thought about it again when I was 21 and 22. There'll be times in your life when you think about religion a lot. But this is the time I want you to think about other people's religions. What kind of questions can you come up with about other people's beliefs? The process for researching is just to start. Look for articles that are kind of like the one you're writing. Then record your ideas and some of the author's ideas, kind of like you're taking notes. This really isn't for citations yet or creating a big bibliography yet. We're not there yet. This is kind of like driving your research forward and getting more questions for you to wonder about. So just record your ideas and the author's ideas, just taking notes. You're going to come back to your own draft and see how to incorporate that new information. So let me review what we're going to do. First, you're going to brainstorm some topics and subtopics. Then you're going to walk around with that idea for a while. Just let it sit in your head. Talk to somebody about it. Then we're going to start on step 3. Step 3 is just to write and write and write and write and write and write and write, and just don't stop. Don't care if you sound foolish. Just get every idea in your head out. And then you'll reread and you'll edit. And when you edit, you'll edit for grammar, for spelling, for things that don't make sense. And finally, you'll know where your missing information is going to be. And maybe you're going to have some more things. Your next step right now is to move forward. This video was all about editing, so you need that first draft first. The next video is going to be all about researching and incorporating that research into your drafts. So, get that first draft, and I want you to edit it just like this video told you.